I want to bring the foreign editor of the Australian newspaper, Mr. Greg Sheridan, who in 2022 will join us every Thursday night here on Credlin. Welcome, Greg. Let's start, if we can, on aged care and the various issues that were exposed today. First up, we saw the Morrison government establish this task force to look into the 800 COVID deaths in aged care since July, more than 500, of course, which have occurred in recent months. You might have thought Labor would support this review, but instead the opposition leader, he was demanding the minister's resignation because the hapless minister, and he is hapless, I know him well from my time in politics, well, he could go to the cricket, but he couldn't front a parliamentary inquiry. I tell you, it's these sort of own goals that are making it hard for the PM to get some clear air, don't you think?
Well, Peter, gee, it's fabulous to be with you. But look, I couldn't agree with you more. COLBECK is a hopeless minister, just hopeless. I mean, he has all the political projection skills of a deflated pillow. So this has been the lightning rod of controversy for the government for 2 years, and they've got their worst performer in the ministry, in the portfolio. And what kind of genius political strategy in the middle of a pandemic which disproportionately kills and isolates the elderly has the Minister for Aged Care also be the same person as the Minister for Sport? Whereas the Minister for Aged Care has to be empathetic with people at the most difficult stage of their lives, and the Minister for Sport has to go to the cricket and sing, "Come on, Aussie, come on." You know, I mean, Peter, I don't know how the government arrives at these circumstances. It's just, it's probably too late to sack COLBECK now, but I just think, you know, it's a disaster when he doesn't appear. It's a disaster when he does appear. I think the Morrison government is in so much trouble, it probably would be a good idea to sack COLBECK and put someone who can really perform in the portfolio.
Well, look, it's interesting. They've had two small reshuffles where they could have resolved this issue. Remember, Michaelia Cash went into the AG's portfolio, and later on there was the complete departure from industry of Christian Porter. So two opportunities there. They could have coat-hanged him out of the way and put someone like Katie Allen or someone with a medical background, let's say, empathy, getting across these issues and helping Greg Hunt shoulder it, because I tell you, he is going to be a real problem going into the campaign, and Labor, I think, have got his measure. Let's talk about AUKUS. A very important report's landed today that says Australia's nuclear submarine project won't have a mandated level of local involvement. Now, instead, the senior defence official says they're more focused on getting the right subs than a special deal for Australian industry. I'll be interested in your view. I've always thought this cannot be pork barrelling. That's what's got us into trouble to date. What do you think?
Well, Peter, I think the correct industry quotient for nuclear subs in Australia is 0%. If we can get some of our suppliers up to a point where they could feed into the global US or British program, that'd be great. But to be a supplier for a nuclear submarine is a very complex matter. You know, your parts have to be certified. There are all kinds of nuclear regulation matters. We have so denuded this country of a manufacturing industry, we don't have a hinterland and a base there. But really, the shipbuilding industry is a shambles. The government's naval shipbuilding program is a shambles. They announced that they were going to procure an aid ship for the South Pacific. They're not even going to build that in Australia because they say there's no space in an Australian shipbuilding program. The truth is we don't have an Australian shipbuilding program. And the idea that we can build nuclear submarines in Adelaide, you know, Peter, once in a discussion you said to me you didn't think these French subs were ever going to come into existence. And you were absolutely right. You were 100% right. I'd have to say to you, on the basis of the evidence so far, I mean, you're many decades younger than me, but I would be astonished if either of us is alive to see one of these nuclear-powered submarines come into being in Australia. I've been a journalist for 43 years, and in that time, one Australian Prime Minister has commissioned a submarine which has come into existence. That's Bob Hawke. And I think this AUKUS stuff, while I support it in principle, it's all hat and no cattle. It's all announcement and no substance.